Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew, and today we are going to talk about Episode 4, Oceans, of Prehistoric Planet Season 2. Before we talk about Prehistoric Planet Season 2, Episode 4, Oceans, we should introduce ourselves. Alex, you're trying to throw me off, and I see
No,
what's up.
I'm vibing because I'm excited.
I see you. My name is Dr. James Napoli. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and North Carolina State University.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
I'm Alexander Rubenstahl, a PhD candidate at Yale University.
And I am Dalton Meyer, also a PhD candidate at Yale University. And together,
We're the
we're the
Skeleton
Skeleton Crew.
Hey, that was pretty good.
It was all right. Before we get into Prehistoric Planet 2, we want to update you on the status of our charity live stream. We've recorded a bunch of episodes in the last few days. We're not sure what order they'll come out in, so you may have previously gotten this information or not. But in case you haven't gotten it yet, we are going to be doing a charity live stream to benefit the Trevor Project this June, this June for Pride Month. We're going to be doing this on June 17th. We are tentatively planning to do a live stream from 12 noon to 12 a.m. midnight on June 17th. That's Eastern time. That's the time zone we all live in. So that's Greenwich Mean Time -5 if you're a time zone dork like I am. We want to have as many of you there as possible. We're really excited to try to raise money for a cause that we all believe in. We are still working out some of the details of what we will do on stream, but expect it to be fairly interactive and very, very fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, what we really want you to do is to give us money so that we can give the money you give us to the Trevor Project. That's how this works. Please do it. We are really hoping that we can make a small amount of difference for an organization that we really believe in and whose cause we wholeheartedly support. So come join us on June 17th.
If you don't come and hang out because you don't support the cause, I refer you to a David Lynch quote, which is "Fix your heart or die."
Save up those dollars and cents, folks, because you're going to be donating them on June 17th.
Money me, money us,
Right.
Money them.
money us a lot.
Right. Money us so we can money them.
We be needing, we be wanting money us now.
Okay. Anyway, now that we've talked about that, we can talk about Prehistoric Planet Season 2, Episode 4, Oceans.
Ocean man,
Ding,
take
ding,
me
ding,
by
dong.
the hand to the promised land.
So I've got a confession to make.
Yeah.
You're a wet little boy.
I have, even as a child who liked dinosaurs, this is a thing about my personality. This is probably an ADHD thing. I have always had things I care about and things I do not give a shit about. And it is simply impossible for me to pay any amount of attention or be excited about anything that I don't give a shit about. Whereas things I'm interested in, I like a lot. What I'm getting at here is that even as a child, when I'd see documentaries and they'd be like, but we've seen what's happening on land. What's happening in the ocean during the age of dinosaurs? I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't want you to leave the dinosaurs. I do not want to stop seeing the dinosaurs. I don't give a shit about the Plesiosaurs. I don't give a shit about the Ichthyosaurs or the ammonites or the mosasaurs or the pliosaurs or any. I don't care. I have never cared. And now, as an adult, I understand the scientific interest in a lot of those groups, and yet I still don't give a shit about them. Do I think that the idea of a plesiosaur or a mosasaur is cool? Yeah. In practice, do I enjoy watching documentaries about them? No. And that's kind of
I
what
know
I'm
what it
getting
is.
at.
That's how I feel about mammals, kind of.
Right. No, it's like, right, they're neat. What is it, Alex?
It is that you cannot get an intellectual stiffy for anything that has even like approaching a semi-decent fossil record. And the marine fossil record, pretty good.
Like, plesiosaurs are neat. I thought the stuff that they present about them is cool, but like, it's just like, it doesn't scratch the itch. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Do you like documentary episodes about like the ocean today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Weird.
And it's not like group specific. It's not like ichthyosaurs are not cool, but mosasaurs are. It's like all secondarily aquatic Mesozoic reptiles. I've just never had that much of an interest in. The ones I do find interesting are like the really, really poorly known ones.
Like the Triassic weirdos.
Yeah, like Saurophargids and things like that.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, like
okay. Well,
anyway, this is a spiraling tangent.
While Jimbo is a hashtag sipping on that haterade, I thought that this was a. If I had to put all the episodes that we've seen thus far in order, it's the third best one. It's the one I didn't like it the least, but it's not my favorite, and it's not my second favorite. But there's a lot of stuff in it that I thought was real cool.
Yeah. That's pretty much, I think, my sentiment on it. I really enjoyed watching it. I think I'm more interested in marine stuff than Jimbo. And I remember like Cruel Seas being one of my favorite episodes of Walking with Dinosaurs. And this
was so cool.
This had several moments in it that gave me Cruel Seas vibes, and that I can't really point to like any specific moment in the episode, but it just had vibes that I enjoyed.
Oh, the horseshoe crab egg laying scene is like very reminiscent of the Ammonite stuff.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean like a specific point in Cruel Sea. I mean in this episode, like.
Oh, I see.
There wasn't like one standout moment for me that I like. Actually, there might be, but this is mostly a vibes based thing where I'm like, I really enjoyed the vibes of this episode.
No, Cruel Seas was like I don't. It might have been one of my favorite episodes of Walking with Dinosaurs, because I remember when I'd go to like the beach with my family, when we'd go to the vineyard, I would make. There's this beach on it's called Gay Head, and it's got these huge orange red cliffs behind it that are actually fossiliferous. There's like Miocene camels and crocs in it.
Yeah.
But I would it was a nice rocky beach, a lot of sand too, and there were big waves, so you could go body surfing. But I would like, after I'd get bored of body surfing, I'd come back and I would make the outline of like the beach Liopleurodon out of sand at the edge of the water. And then sometimes when I was younger than when I would make the Liopleurodon, I would swim around in the shallow water and like peek my head out at my brother like I was the big Liopleurodon. So it made an impact. It was very cool. And this also had some Cruel Sea vibes.
Amelia, your thoughts as the resident ocean person?
I think it was good. I liked it a lot. It did a really good job of kind of showcasing the diversity of things alive in the ocean, right? Like that's something I feel like is on the whole really overlooked in dinosaur documentaries because they're focused on dinosaurs, which were not in the sea.
Unless they were ankylosaurs.
Yeah, no. Right, unless they were dead ankylosaurs.
Or bird.
Or birds. Some birds, yeah. Oh, that's right, there was a bird in this episode. I have it playing next to the screen here because as these guys would know, I was not entirely paying attention when we were watching it the other night. So refreshing my brain on what was happening. And right now it's the Phosphorosaurus swimming through the Lanternfish shoal, which I thought kicked ass. That was pretty great. I like him. Like, right. I like that he's doing the little tongue blep thing. So I guess now is the time where I'll say that yes, they could probably do that, and they probably did. We know that they could because they're lizards, and most lizards can do it, even if they don't very often. But also, like, they have the holes in their palate that the tongue goes into for the Jacobson organ is the organ that they're using to smell with their tongues. They do have those holes in their palate, so there's no reason to believe they weren't doing it. When you hear people talk about debate about whether Mosasaur tongues were forked, that's silly. Of course they were forked. They have two holes for the forks of the tongue to go into. More of the contention among scientists is were the tongues long and kind of snake-like or shorter and fatter like a Lanthanotus or a Gila monster. I think the current thinking is that they were shorter and fatter like a Gila monster because of the structure of the hyoid bones, which we've talked about semi-recently for Mononicus. In the Mononicus video, we talked about the hyoid bones and how you can tell the shape of and the length of the tongue based on the hyoid bones. So based on mosasaur hyoids, they probably had thick, normal lizard tongues instead of the long snake tongue. But they really drive the point home in this episode that they are lizards. That's something that I felt was a little absent from the first season, the Mosasaurus. The only thing they really did to highlight that was the skin shedding scene, which was great. But the vibes, the energy of the mosasaurs depicted in this episode were much more lizardy, in my opinion, which I appreciated. But I also appreciate that they're showing like other species, because that's something that I don't think I've ever seen anything other than Mosasaurus or Tylosaurus shown in a documentary. And when they do show a mosasaur, they only show one species, because then they have to get back to the dinosaurs and whatever else is going on. So, that's good.
That scene with the lanternfish.
Yeah.
Just reminded me, because Dalton and I were thinking about it when we saw them, and we actually did this a few times because neither of us are super familiar with the ranges of some marine clades, but we were like, oh, was that around the Cretaceous? Oh, was that around the Cretaceous? Like we did the seagrass, which turned out yes. Yeah. And then Dalton, what did you find for the lanternfish? I don't remember.
If I remember correctly, I believe that lanternfish, at least the crown group, which means the living group of lanternfish, is dated back to the Paleocene, which is the very beginning of the Cenozoic, so right after the Cretaceous. But because they're that old, would not at all be surprising to me if there was a stem group of lanternfish that lived in the Cretaceous. And I believe I've seen elsewhere people pointing out that there is a lanternfish relative fossil known, I think, from Japan. I'm not at all familiar with fish, so.
Now, we mentioned briefly, and I think our Styxosaurus video, that lanternfish are like most of Earth's biomass.
Oh, yeah. You.
I think I saw a paper that phenomenon in particular of like the hyperdiversity of them and like the modern group's main like explosion is probably like Miocene or post-Miocene.
So recent.
So more recent than you might think, and more recent than the show, but that doesn't mean that there weren't groups of bioluminescent fish who did this behavior in the Cretaceous. There probably were. It's just a little bit good to consider that it's not exactly the same group, and it probably isn't representing like so much biomass as it does today. Cool. But it does look very cool.
Yeah, I mean that segment was beautiful. I'm
sorry, I thought you didn't care.
Can't believe you even remembered it.
No, I thought it was really what I think what I have generally not liked about a lot of like marine animal focused documentaries is that I feel like a lot, and maybe this is like because a lot of this is how I felt when I was a kid. Like, obviously, like, plesiosaurs don't scratch my scientific itch right now. Otherwise, I would be studying plesiosaurs. Like, you work on the thing you care about the most. I care most about theropod dinosaurs, and so I study them. But as a kid, I remember, like, just these things never landing for me. And, well, I think we went on a little bit more of a tangent than I'd wanted to about how generally that still holds true, even though I'm an adult right now. I think
now you want to walk that back?
No, I'm not trying to walk it back. I think a lot of it stems from the fact that I'll stand by what I say, Alex. Don't worry. I'm not going to retreat from my position.
He hates fish and he's proud of it.
What I think a lot of it was that I felt like the documentaries didn't show a lot of very creative things, or like it felt like a lot of things swimming in a blue void. And generally the point made is like, look how big it is. Like that you know, like look how big this Mosasaur is. Look how big this Pliosaur is. Look how big Leadsichthys is in the Nigel Marven Sea Monster documentary. I mean, the Nigel Marven Sea Monster documentary is mostly look how big this thing is. And there came a point for me as a child, I honestly think I was kind of responding to like, I feel like all that is happening is that you're just saying it's very big.
And because you're short, you felt disenfranchised.
I'm the Italian island dwarf.
I kid.
No, I know. For the viewer, I'm 5'9".
Which is shorter than everyone else on the call.
No, I'm not shorter than Amelia. Amelia is 5'7". Jesus Christ, Alex.
Well,
5'7.5". Don't
doxing her height like that.
Me.
Yeah.
And you're really only like not even a full inch shorter than me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're like, depending on how we style our hair, our height can switch. Right. Yeah.
But I got a medical form that says I'm taller than you. So.
Yeah, you do, and that's all that matters. Anyway, no, I think what I generally missed about a lot of those documentaries, and that I really liked in the Phosphorosaurus segment, is that it felt like a creative little story. Like, I liked seeing it taking shelter among the rocks, and was it coral or was it rock? I can't remember what it was.
Rock.
Corals on it.
The reef. There were some corals, yeah.
Yeah. Like having it kind of be just swimming through that very beautiful area and then coming out at night and having like the visuals of that I thought were very intriguing. That was my second favorite thing in the show or in this episode. I really I did enjoy that despite my general fact that these animals don't scratch my itch. It was a very, very beautifully done segment and something that felt very creative. Again, I say this a lot. I think Prehistoric Planet is at its absolute best when it is showing creative takes on things in the fossil record or things in geologic history where they are pretty and good to look at and also backed by some science, or at the very least not contraindicated by anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is an example of that for me. It's gorgeous. It's very, very pretty. I like
The other thing I'll note is that with the lanternfish being from Japan, that is also where Phosphorosaurus is from.
I thought Phosphorosaurus was Moroccan.
Wait,
No.
The lanternfish were from Japan?
The fossil
one.
lanternfish that is Cretaceous is from Japan.
Oh,
At
well,
least
that's cool.
I might make a fool of myself, but I am so tired right now. I remember there are two species of Phosphorosaurus, and I know at least one of them is from Japan, but I believe the other one is too.
The other one is Belgian. I don't know why.
It's Belgian. Yes, we did talk about this. I don't know why we thought it was Moroccan. Phosphates. That's what we had this discussion. Okay. Yeah, we did talk about this 2 days ago, and that is why. Yes, so there's two species of Phosphorosaurus. One's Belgian, one's one's Belgian, one's Japanese. And if the lanternfish is Japanese, that would make sense. And then I think it was today, some folks were asking me if there was Mosasaurus in Japan, because we see when Phosphorosaurus is darting around in the corals, there's a big shadow of a bigger thing looming. And the answer is there's Mosasaurus hobetsuensis, which is the Japanese Mosasaurus. But also there's a couple other mosasaurines that are in the Pacific that get to be pretty big and could loom. There's Plotosaurus, Rhecosaurus, Moanosaurus. There's plenty of them. The final thing I'll say about...
No, you go ahead.
The final thing I'll say about... Oh my god. I'll try again. The final thing I'll say about Phosphorosaurus and why it's cool that it's being shown is that it's a weirdo, and by weirdo I mean halosaurine. Typically, when I do outreach events, I talk about three groups of mosasaurs: the mosasaurines, the tylosaurines, the platycarpines. There's a fourth one, and it's the halosaurines, and I don't talk about them because we don't know very much about them and where they go, because they're weird as shit. And this is the one, so one of my gripes about the anatomy of the mosasaurs in the show is that they don't always get the proportions right of their bodies. Halosaurs are weird and stumpy, and they don't look quite right. I mean, based on the one body fossil we have of one that I'm aware of. So I guess it kind of makes sense, and seeing it in motion and stuff, it looks a lot better than, the 2 seconds we had of it in the trailer before, but it looks wrong because they are wrong, because they're cursed animals.
I'll note for any viewers who've been following our stuff, the Phosphorosaurus was the animal that we said looked kind of like a Metriorhynchid in the trailer reaction. But Amelia, based on what you're saying, it sounds like it doesn't look that much like a mosasaur because it's a halosaurian, and they look weird.
Yeah, they look weird, and the catch with that is we still don't really understand them. That is my problem, and that's why I'm hung up on it, but also because we don't know very much about it. And because I don't think Phosphorosaurus has a whole skeleton either, so I can't be as nitpicky about it as Mosasaurus and other things that we know from multiple good fossils.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that's why it looks horrible, because it is a horrible little animal.
Right. I really enjoyed the looming mosasaur shots. I thought that was again, as part of the segment, just a very creative and arresting visual to see the little guy who's got big eyes and looks almost friendly for a giant predatory lizard. What we would consider an enormous lizard if it were alive today, and they're this is a small mosasaur.
It would be the largest living lizard, right?
I guess probably
it would be. It would be tied for, if you don't count snakes.
Right.
If you don't count snakes, they would be longer than, and probably more massive than, a Komodo dragon, which is the largest non-snake lizard.
Yeah.
Which grow to be about 9 feet long.
Right. So it would be enormous, and that's the little friendly one. But then just seeing like the shadow looming like an Imperial Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
Like, I like things that show
That
off
loom.
that kind. Well, just show the size differential. Like,
Oh wait, weren't you like literally moments ago complaining about how like the thing you didn't like about old documentaries being how it's like look how big it is?
well, because there was a lot more going on than that, but also they showed it in a very creative way rather than just being like, here it is in a blue void. It's very large.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm just being...
like having its shadow darken the Phosphorosaurus and like having it blot out the sunlight. Like it's just, I don't know, just filling the entire void and watching it go by. It's menacing. It feels good.
It's like your first encounter with the ghost Leviathan in Subnautica. Have any of you played Subnautica?
I haven't played it yet. It's on my list.
Kicks ass. Great game.
Maybe we should play that for the stream.
We could do an hour or
There's
two
like
of that.
there are like a bunch of extinct Leviathans that you can like find the fossils of in the game. It's very cool. That might be a fun game for stream.
So, what came after Phosphorosaurus?
The bait ball with Hesperornis and Xiphactinus.
Munch, munch, munch.
Munch munch. Do they specify the little fish in the bait ball? Do you remember?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't think so either. And I will complain to say they could have called them Enchidus, because Enchidus, I believe, is still around in the Maastrichtian. I guess I don't really know. So Enchidus is the saber-toothed anchovy. It's a very common fish in the Western Interior Seaway. They're really little and they have big fangs. They're really cute. But I do like
fish.
Huh?
It's scrat.
Scrat.
And not only
yeah, I mean basically.
Not only is it around in the Maastrichtian, here's the kicker. It makes it into the Eocene.
Oh hell yeah. Go
Survives.
Enchidus. Oh, yeehaw. Seaway gang. Held out. Bait ball, I think they could have added more species of like predators rather than just Hesperornis and Xiphactinus.
It felt like an
I
odd
also
mixture.
It was weird. Yeah, it was because like I've seen, oh man, well, we will find the artwork and flash it on the screen. I forget the artist's name right now, but someone somewhat recently did a very beautiful drawing of like a Western Interior Seaway bait ball that has like two different kinds of plesiosaurs and a mosasaur and the bait ball, and there's a bird. It's great. It's lovely.
Well, like I think probably, and we'll revisit this, that this is probably based on an existing bit of nature footage, and I've never verified or checked this, but like I think a lot of I'd actually like to talk to some of the people who do like the storyboarding stuff for this. If like when they're producing a segment, if they're like they're using like other animals as guides. So like there are a few pieces of like, I think it's either Blue Planet or Planet Earth where it's like gannets and sailfish.
Yeah,
which is kind of
that would make sense
with the bait ball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
that makes sense.
In terms of what I would have liked to see in that segment, what age is Dolichorhynchops? Is that too old?
Dolichorhynchops? I think it's
Seaway, so it would have been Campanian. So I mean, and I don't know if polycotylids made it to the Maastrichtian.
I'll find out. I'll go on the Wikipedia.
Yeah, see if they made it.
It looks like they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
okay, and just today on Twitter, I saw Darren talking about a scrapped polykotylid segment.
Oh dang!
That
would have been fun.
I'm sure we'll see it in season 3.
Are great.
Yeah,
that would have been really fun.
Polycotylids are one of the only like they somehow scratch the itch for me. I think they look neat.
How?
They look neat. I think it's something about the short neck and the long snout and the teeth and I don't know. There's something about them that they work for me. I would like to see more.
I have a memory of there being like some National Geographic or something special about
I think it was
Polycotylids.
Yes, that was the sea monsters. Sea monsters. Am I being stupid? No, it's the one.
Yeah,
it is the Seaway.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It is just sea monsters. It is Nat Geo. I think it's Nat Geo.
I don't remember if it was Nat Geo. I think I saw it at the AM&H IMAX theater when I was a kid.
Yeah.
This came up in another video of ours that I watched recently because I remember myself talking about how I was going to go see it and then didn't, and I don't believe I've actually ever seen it. I was going to go see it, and then I didn't, but I read the book because I got it from the book fair. And yeah, so like the gist or the plot line of that documentary is like you're following a polycotylid, or you're following two, I believe. Like
Yeah,
you're
I wanna
following
say it was
two
siblings, right?
polycotylid siblings, yes. And
Yeah.
one of them gets killed by a mosasaur. I remember that from the book. And I don't remember what started this train of thought, because maybe we'll add something in editing to show exactly where the cut is between before we lost internet and afterwards, where we're now trying to put all the pieces back together. Anyways, doesn't matter. Polycotylids are cool. I think that was the point. Because they are.
Yeah.
And they are featured in that documentary.
And I would have loved to see them in Prehistoric Planet, is I think what we were talking about. And it sounds,
Yeah.
based on this idea that they were in Previs and they didn't make it into this, it sounds like we'll probably see it in Prehistoric Planet Season 3.
Should
if
we
they make it.
address what a polycotylid is for our audience?
No, we'll talk about it some other time.
Okay.
Well, we actually talked about it a little bit in the Attenborosaurus video. Right?
Yeah.
Polycotylids are short-necked, long-necked plesiosaurs. That's what they are. They're just a group of plesiosaurs. It's one of the several times that they evolve short necks.
Yeah. All right. Gun to my head.
So
I'll probably end up doing an episode of Jurassic World Evolution 2. If they release more marine reptiles, I think it's probably a prime one.
Yeah.
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 But so back to the bait ball. The birds look cool. I'm glad they're featured. I've never thought about the fact that they were flightless, even though I knew that. And so I'm thinking about that. I'm like, how did these things survive? Because they're in the middle of the Seaway, which for those of you unaware is nicknamed Hell's Aquarium for good reason, because it was probably a horrible, awful place to be constantly, because it's full of every kind of sea monster you can possibly imagine, but like it's real. So I think that was neat. And then also just showing how completely helpless they were when Xiphactinus decided it wanted bird. God, Xiphactinus is so cool. Like, I know people like to hate on it because it's very common in the Seaway as fossils, but it's objectively really cool, and I love it dearly.
And then they make like fantastic museum mounts. Like just like a big fish on a wall is great. And like,
they're awesome.
Yeah, you raised something that I was thinking about, which is how did Hesperornis exist?
I would imagine they were very coastal. I mean, like, listen, an analogy would be penguins. They are also flightless marine birds that are like spending a lot of time in the water, and they get massacred by seals. They get massacred by orca whales. They just outnumber their predator population a lot, but they also don't like. I think the thing. And I mean, it's just kind of the way it's shown. It feels like the Hesperonithines are like just out in the middle of the like remnant of the WIS that surrounded the Maastrichtian. I imagine they were sticking pretty close to shore.
Because there are freshwater ones. So
right.
Yeah. And that could explain too, at least in part, why we don't find very many of them as fossils. Like, they're pretty rare. I'm not aware of very many good ones, at least from the Seaway proper, like from Kansas, which would have been in the middle of the Seaway. So that would make sense that those are ones that just kind of drifted out and then had the luck to not get shredded.
Right. I mean,
I really like their feet.
Yeah.
The feet are cool. The
big pads.
Feet are cool.
Yeah.
And teeth. Yeah, right. They mention it. There's a sentence about it, but they are toothed birds,
right.
Properly toothed.
Yeah, a lot of people say that birds lost teeth to lose weight for flight, and that is not true at all. And a basic understanding of the phylogenetic relationships of theropod dinosaurs and birds would show you that, because we've talked about it a little bit. We mentioned Limosaurus in a video that we recorded last night, and we have no idea when it'll come out in relation to this, so just don't worry about it. But like, some dinosaurs develop beaks during growth. Some dinosaur groups develop beaks independent, like therizinosaurs get beaks, oviraptorosaurs get beaks. Beaks are a common thing to develop. Like most ornithischians develop beaks to, and lose their premaxillary and front of their dentary dentition to some degree. Evolving a beak is common. Also, birds learn to fly way before they lose their teeth. It's also something I hear a lot that birds lose the penis. Only very like early divergent groups of birds that are still alive today have one. Ducks famously have one that is longer than the rest of their body and becomes erect in a fraction of a second. So they just kind of like boing like that, just shoot out.
Well, yeah, it's shaped like a spring too.
It's shaped like a corkscrew, yeah, so that
So they can boing.
The Linnaean Society rejected my appeal to name to rename Gallowenseriformes Gallonepoliforms
for the corkscrew.
The second to erection. But chickens, Galliforms, I think actually don't have external. They just have cloaca, right?
I think so. Yeah,
but ratites have big external.
Ratites have penises, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, again, like modern birds are not the only group of birds that learn to fly. Like there's many extinct groups of birds, things we would call birds colloquially today if they were around today, like enantiornithines. I think there are some other smaller radiations whose names I'm forgetting. Anyway, birds did not lose teeth to lighten their bodies for flight. A lot of early groups of birds have teeth, all enantiornithines, which are mostly volant. There's probably a flightless one that I'm not thinking of right now. Is there a flightless enantiornithine?
I don't think so.
I don't think we know
one. I do not know. I won't embarrass myself. But yeah, they're loaded too. Like Falcatachilles, there's
there's just so many toothed flying birds. And Hesperornis and Ichthyornis, I think, have a lot to say about the evolution of beaks and versus teeth in birds. But they seem to have both simultaneously. So they're transitional in that regard.
They have a funky jaw joint too.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
It's worth.
Has that borne out? Because I know Phil Gingrich wrote a paper on that in like the 70s, and I don't know if the modern studies of Hesperornis have borne it out.
Which thing?
I don't know because I emailed somebody who works on them and they didn't get back to me because I'm interested in it because it's very similar to what mosasaurs do. So it's it's the articulation of two bones in the jaw that kind of come together like a ball and socket, and that's like exactly what mosasaurs do. So I was just curious about any more literature on this convergence. So I emailed somebody and
there was a paper that came out not even last year, probably just months ago. Got time about cranial kinesis and ichthyornithine birds that might have something to do with that. It's about the pterygoid, but they might talk about it. I don't know.
If it was recent, I didn't see it. Like this was a quest I went on over a year ago, so I don't remember.
And I just want to say that so Hesperornithines have teeth, and the teeth are actually pretty. Man, I kind of wish we had one of Mike's. Well, we couldn't have used it without asking him. But the teeth are weird because they're like splayed out to the side. I'm gonna find one. No, wait, is that Ichthyornis?
I think you might be thinking of Ichthyornis.
So in Ichthyornis, they're splayed out to the side and they're in like a groove. They're not thecodont. But in Hesperornis, they're thecodont and they're more dorsiventral. But in living birds, a lot of birds that seabirds and even extinct seabirds, they don't really re-evolve teeth, but they evolve ridges on their bills, sometimes cratinous, sometimes with direct bony correlates that kind of mimic teeth, but they never re-evolve their teeth. Nothing really does that to our knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting example of what seems to be a pretty solid one-way street, right? Like, there are a lot of groups that have lost teeth, and I am not aware of any instance of a reversal on that.
It's like that and gills.
So, baby ammonites are then seen.
Baby ammonites are great.
Very cute.
They look like couscous. Not they look like couscous.
They look like
couscous. They kind of don't even look real, but I don't mind.
Alex, can you say that again, but into your microphone?
Oh, sorry. They don't really look real as little babies. They look like funny little cartoons, but I don't care because they're fun and cute. And then once, like the actual ammonites, like once they're adults, they look great.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dalton and I were lamenting to each other how we were robbed of there being ammonites in the extant ocean.
It looks so cool.
And they survived everything except for a big rock. There had to be, God damn it, there were definitely like deep sea ammonoids into the Eocene, and then maybe the change, like the ice box killed them all.
I remember seeing a talk a couple of years ago at the AMNH that was positing something about their life history that might have made them like unable to survive the KPG. I forget what it was. It was something. It was correlated, I think, to acidity in the ocean or something. Where like it's just like where we know they were reproducing, like in the water column, like that would have been completely inhospitable. And the idea is that it would have killed like the entire juvenile crop from the year, and probably caused the population crash like within a generation. That you've got a complete failure to breed, and so then they wind up dying.
I'd offer an alternative interpretation,
which is,
well, they lack the adaptation to survive rock.
Right. No, but I'm saying
they were
like,
made of scissors.
No, I think that's probably that sounds like a compelling argument. I was making a silly joke.
No, I know. What I'm saying for our viewer is that was putting contrast to whatever it was about nautiloids, and like why would nautilus survive? Is that like nautilus are? I think they're more benthic, and the deep ocean is a little more stable environmentally.
Yeah, because I wonder
short-term perturbation.
Oh my god! So I'm sorry, I'm distracted. It's at the part where they're in a baby raft, and I really hated that. I remembered being.
I loved that.
Well, in the state of mind that I was in, remember, I was not.
You mean when they're all just pushing each other?
Yeah, no, and like right now, I'm like, oh my god, it's sentient couscous. Oh my god. Well, like in the water, they're the cutest things, and then they're all. I had a point to make. Oh, life history. Yeah, I wonder if like the juveniles were like super heavily dependent on like plankton, and like the plankton's gonna be dicked by that huge rock wiping out the sun. You know, like that's what I'm thinking. If there was a greater dependence on photosynthesizing things, maybe that could have screwed them. Because like, you know.
I think it was a geochemical thing. I think it was like something about how they precipitate the shell or something like that. That like in a situation of greater acidity, like the babies would have just dissolved. And so
yeah. But my point is, how does that relate? Why would with nautilus being benthic? Like I guess I'm not understanding why that would affect
because
that.
the surface
like I understand
ocean
that
changes
as a concept.
more. Like because the surface ocean is in contact with the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and like you've got all the carbon release from the burning. So the surface ocean will acidify way before the deep ocean does.
And, all right, I'm looking up.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm investigating for my own. I need to know how nautiloids were doing in the Cretaceous compared, like, if like their diversity from the KPG to like now has been kind of comparable in that they weren't super diverse, or if they were very diverse in like the Cretaceous. And I'm going to find that out for myself.
Okay.
While you guys talk.
Okay.
I want to talk about
the next thing.
Well, no. There's a cameo in this segment that I need to mention.
Are you going to say the thing that I was about to say?
Maybe. I thought you were moving on to the next segment. I have no idea what you were about to say.
I have a feeling it's what you think I've forgotten.
So just say it.
That is paused on my screen right now. Okay. The baby. The other baby. The baby eating baby.
Yes, baby on baby violence. It's been brought up on Twitter a lot. It looks like they reused the model for the baby curricula as a baby Pyroraptor. And the baby curricula is also probably exactly the same model as the baby Velociraptor. I think there's a slight reskin that was done for the baby curricula. It looks like it's got a more spotted and less stripy pattern on it. Like, they're similar though. Do I mind? Not one bit. It appears on screen for like a fraction of a second, and they did not need to model a whole new baby for that. We don't know what kind of dromaeosaur Pyroraptor is. Pyroraptor is one of the most incompletely known dromaeosaurids. There's been an argument recently that it's an Unulagian, kind of like Austroraptor.
Hey.
What?
We're gonna talk about it in a video. Don't give too much away.
Right, that's true. I forgot Pyroraptor's coming up. I don't even consider whatever that is in Jurassic World Evolution or in Jurassic World Dominion to be Pyroraptor. What I'm saying is we don't know what it should look like as an adult, and so I'm not going to say like, oh, they clearly made it a baby of this kind of dromaeosaur when it should look more like a baby of this other kind of dromaeosaur. Also, juvenile animals look more similar than the adults do. Like a lion cub and a tiger cub look very similar except for color pattern differences. I wish they had done a little coloration difference just to differentiate it more, but I really don't care. I think it's a good use of resources to not worry about that. It's fine.
All right. I've discovered things about nautiloids.
Oh.
How were they
Not
doing?
much. But so Nautilus, the genus Nautilus appears in the Eocene. And it looks like a lot of they're kind of like these diverse families of nautiloids that go extinct in the Cretaceous, but there are like three like completely separate families from the extant one that persist until like the end of the Oligocene. So it could be they were more. It looks like there was some diversity through the early Cenozoic, at least compared to what there is now.
Right.
If you are an invert paleontologist, let us know in the comments. What's up? What's up with nautiloids? They're cool. I like them. Did ammonites look more like nautiloids? Well, did they look like they're in the show? Could they do this backwards? I wasn't sure if they could do that, but I like their siphon. I don't know anything. These are all questions I have. Could they do that? Would it make sense? Because they're like big heavy shells and like nautiloids just kind of like squirt backwards because they have that big siphon. Like why would they do that?
Well, I don't know. I interpreted that less as like they were.
Is that feeding?
I just kind of interpreted it as a consequence of like as they were moving, just like having the tentacles out, being forced this way. They were like, what? Like not as propulsion, but just
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I'm just asking questions.
I don't think I can say this publicly, and so I'm going to cut the video here, and we'll go on to another point.
So what do we want to say about elasmosaurs?
They're cool.
Long.
They're neat.
They're long. Yeah.
They're long. I liked the Mosasaur. I'm going to talk more about the Mosasaur because it's the one that made an impact on me. I liked that.
As it should have.
Yeah, I mean, I objectively think they're cooler than Plesiosaurs, even though Plesiosaurs are probably the weirder thing. Like a Mosasaur.
Oh yeah.
Mosasaur is like, what if lizard but large and in the water? And Plesiosaurs are like, what if literally the longest neck, both in terms of number of vertebrae and maybe maybe absolute length of anything? And we're like, yeah, it's fine.
We also don't know where they go.
Right.
We don't know where Sauropterygians go, and they have bizarre palates.
Right. I mean, the uncertainty
is stupid and weird.
The uncertainty around where Sauropterygians go is so much greater than the uncertainty of where Mosasaurs go.
Yeah.
Like Mosasaurs are never not lizards. Like it's just like, what kind of lizard are they? And it's also like there's only like two possibilities. It's just I don't know. It's not like they're going to turn out to be anoles.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be funny. There was a brief moment where I thought they might be iguanas, but that has passed.
That'd be the best answer. The answer that pleases no one and upsets
everyone. That's exactly what I told. I think I told Dalton that exactly.
Yeah.
Was I want it to be true because then no one is happy.
Right. This is maybe a good way for me to explain to everybody here how I feel about aquatic things in general. Because I thought of a very good simile, and I think it's one that doesn't overstate the thing in my usual way of comically overstating everything. I feel about marine reptiles in the Mesozoic the way I kind of feel about anoles now. Where, like, I know that they are interesting, but I have no desire to work on them or study them and kind of don't want to hear that much about them in terms of the documentary. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know anoles are one of the most important model groups for studying evolution, like, in general, on Earth right now. I don't really have a desire to know much more about anoles, even though I know they're super important. That's kind of where I am. Yeah. I think that's a fair one because I think all of us here probably feel about the same way about anoles.
Speak for yourself. They're in my data set, baby.
What I was going to say about the Mosasaur before I went on several tangents that have been cut, is that I enjoyed that the Mosasaur, especially when seen from underneath, really did look like a giant marine lizard. There are occasional shots in the show, and I think, like, I don't know. I'm not going to take any stand on Mosasaur soft tissue amounts or anything like that, because, like, I don't know enough, and a lot of it's not really even, like, reconstructible in things that we just know about, like, in general, unless we have, like, exactly their modern relatives to base it on. Like, you can do it for a mammoth, but when you, like, we don't know how much soft tissue covering Basilosaurus had or anything like that. Like, things get weird when they get long and skinny. What I will say is that it gave lizard to me from underneath, regardless of anything about the, like, I was just like, oh yeah, that's a huge lizard. It's something about the way it was moving its body, the specific angle of, like, where the front forelimbs join the body, or so. I don't know exactly what it was, but it just gave lizard to me.
No, you're right. There's an kind of this ventral shot before it does, like, it launches up that I'm like, that's a big lizard. I liked it.
Right.
Yeah, there are isolated shots. Like, so, like, I think what I'm realizing for Prehistoric Planet is it's really just the Mosasaurus model that bugs me more than anything else. Because, like, there's a lot of shots of it specifically where, to me, it gives blimp, which I personally don't believe is the case for mosasaurs. I'm not saying that they were noodly by any means, but they did not have blubber. I don't think it's not like ichthyosaurs that have actual like studies supporting that like they did have blubber. I don't think they did. They're also not living in cold environments. So I don't know. And I know that's not the only consideration for blubber, but I do not believe they had them. We have enough soft tissue specimens to know that by now, that if they would have it, someone I would hope would have found it by now. So that bugs me. But in this, so like right now, I've got it paused on the part where it's like fully breached out of the water, and it's from underneath, and it looks nice. And yeah, the part where it's kind of curling to do its launch, it looks okay. But I mean, it breached, which is cool, and totally something that probably had happened at least once.
And this behavior is based on the developing, or I guess in progress work of friend of the channel, Kirsten Formosa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's at the end?
Yep. Movement.
Who does an interview.
Yeah.
With how quickly it can move, and her results are fast. Move quick.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Move
It'll
very
get you.
fast. Yeah.
Gotta go fast.
But yeah, no, it was cool to see her at the end. Nice
Yeah.
to see emerge. You know, like they got a lot of paleontologists at the end of the episodes, but it's always cool to see early career folk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting their signs in.
I mean, this is maybe a digression that's not really to the point, but you know, this kind of exposure can really like do a lot for people's careers early on. And I do generally wish that more media things like kind of did the effort to try to find young people who were like kind of need a break in the field.
Us.
Yeah. Well,
Put
I
us on
mean,
the documentary.
listen, this is obviously
Put us on the
self-serving to a degree.
documentary.
Right. I would love to be in a documentary, but like
Yeah.
it's self-serving a little bit, but you know, in general, it's like there's a lot of people who make a lot of documentary appearances who kind of are already set. Whereas,
Right.
you know, for younger people breaking in, that's a really, really good way to make connections and really promote their research. And it'd be cool if Prehistoric Planet did a better job with including a lot of people. I know something that is talked about a lot online is that a lot of the consultants are white men, and like I think with the exception of Kirsten, they all are.
No, because there's
Susie made it.
Susie made
Was Susie officially a consultant, or is she just featured in those sections? I didn't see her name in the credits, which is why.
Oh, I don't know.
I saw her name.
Was it?
I saw her
Okay,
name
maybe...
somewhere. She's a consultant.
I guess my ultimate point is like I don't think that any of these people who are consultants should not be consultants. I just would love it if in future seasons of the show, if they make them, there's an increasingly broad number of people brought in who are able to be featured in that kind of capacity. It was cool to see one of our friends who's in relatively the same career stage in that, you know, getting to do that. It would be cool if more
she's in
people
our career stage. She's not in your career stage, but she's in the rest of us' career stage.
Well, I mean non-tenured professor. You know what I mean? Or like, pre-permanent position. It'd be cool to see an increasingly broad number and diversity of consultants on the show. No criticism at all. Just it would be great to see more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. It's the mosasaur. It's this. I think it's something about the deliberateness of the motion as it's curling its body that just it feels very like lizard doing a thing to me.
Yeah.
Slightly. I have snakes. They're in the other room. It felt
well,
a little.
No way. Do you also have swords in your apartment?
I have one.
Oh, okay. Cool.
What are you getting at, Alex?
Nothing. I'm not getting at anything, man. That's cool.
Very cool.
Thanks. So anyway, I have snakes, and it reminded me a little bit of motions that they do, and snakes are a group of very specialized lizards. So, you know, it felt right. The vibes were correct for me in that scene, and that's, I guess, what I'm getting at. It was a good scene, and I loved the moments of breaching and all of that. The sound design, the kind of slow-mo on it. It felt very dramatic, and I liked that they kind of allowed the drama of that to live in its moment. Was there another segment after this? There was the filter feeding.
There was.
Plesiosaur.
Ammonites.
And the other ammonites.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're on to adult ammonites with the funky spaceship music. And they're all just kind of vibing. And I love
great.
it. Because like I knew Globidance is going to be in the series. And I'm kind of happy it didn't crash the party.
Yeah. It was good to see the diversity. A lot of people, I never really understood that heteromorph ammonites were real. I thought they were like horrifically deformed or pathological.
No, they're real.
Nope. So there are. I assume the word they use is homomorph, if heteromorph is the other alternative, but maybe they don't use it. Maybe they're just
Maybe.
non-heteromorph and heteromorph. But the normal ammonites are coiled like a nautilus. They're like the typical coiled shell that we normally think of. And then it's considered a heteromorph if it's anything else. And this show did a wonderful a wonderful job of showing just how diverse the heteromorphs got.
Paperclips.
The paperclip.
Paper clips.
The one that like its mouth was around itself.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, and I guess we can't discuss the stuff that you saw in your job talk, but like all these weird morphs and stuff, and like strange shapes. And I don't think this was addressed by, or kind of like what are they doing with these strange shapes? And we kind of see some of them seem like they're chilling on the bottom more. There's the weird spiraling one that's like tentacles up around its like shell, and I think that one's believed to be a plankton feeder that kind of like drifts down. They're long tubes, predatory ones, and it's just kind of, it's not the work of, but it reminded me a lot of we have an invertebrate paleontology course here that Derek Briggs teaches, also one of the best paleontologists ever. He's the guy who kind of figured out everything in the Cambrian. He's like, this is what they are, and he also figured out how taphonomy works.
Yeah,
he's very good. But in that lecture series, we talk and read a lot about read a lot of Dolph Seilacher's stuff. And he was this German invertebrate paleontologist who basically, there were, he's like, there are a lot of weird shapes in brachiopods. This is what, and then he's just like, this is what they did. This is what the morphs do. And all these great illustrations of like how things would settle, or like why would spines be good on muddy substrate. So just like very interesting paleobiology for invertebrates, and ammonites are kind of right up that alley as well.
So if you're wondering why we're traumatized, it certainly isn't the nautiluses or the ammonites. Wow. It doesn't matter. Anyway, to kind of wrap this, unless other people have anything to say, I have it kind of paused on the scene where it's showing all of them and zooming out and realizing that it's probably one of the most realistic shots in the whole series. Like, just dudes vibing. I like it.
Oh,
I like it a lot.
I was vibing when they were
Ammonites
showing
are
that.
great.
It was
Yeah,
great.
I'm like, yeah, man, just hanging out. There's seagrass. It's a sunny day, Okay, the polar plesiosaurs are next. If anyone has anything to say about that,
I just don't.
I
don't really know. Well, oh no.
Go for people who do.
Anyway,
it was beautifully animated.
It's very nice. I have said several times now that it reminds me very much of the shrieking eels of the Princess Bride movie, which is not meant to be an insult. It's just when I see that face in the water and it's got all these teeth, like that's immediately like, yes, eels.
Yeah.
They're good. They're cute.
Mm-hmm.
I love that the baby sees the camera and kind of like looks at it before it dives underneath the water again. I like that this episode in particular just is like, we're gonna break the fourth wall a lot. That's the gimmick here. The Hesperornis is gonna swim toward the camera and like look at it and then swim away. The baby Plesiosaur is just gonna be like, and then just dive back into the polar water.
Camera.
Oh, it sniffs it. That's even better.
I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna go back a minute and see if it actually leaves. Like if it. I thought I saw it breathing on it. Hold on a minute. He's gonna do it. His breath is puff. Let's see. Yeah, he kind of look. Oh my god. Yeah. He breathes on the camera and he gets really blurry and it's adorable.
It's great.
Oh my god. But anyway, no, it's really pretty. It's really nice. Like we've said, I'm sure several times before, a lot of the water shots kind of feel fake sometimes, and this is one instance where they don't.
Yeah, it was a beautifully done segment. Again, I don't find plesiosaurs overly compelling. But I thought that especially that shot of the mother and the baby like breaching through the ice, to me, is some of the most photorealistic animation on the show. Like the way that the water's moving around them, the way the light's hitting them, it really works for me there.
Would there have been polar ice there?
That's a good question. Sea ice.
No, no.
So the Maastrichtian is generally... So the Maastrichtian is the era, for those who are not familiar with the term that we've been using throughout this entire series of videos. The Maastrichtian is the latest stage in the Cretaceous, so Prehistoric Planet exclusively takes place at the end of the Maastrichtian, right? It's like the latest period in the age of dinosaurs. The Maastrichtian is generally characterized by cooling.
Okay.
There seems to be like a pronounced climatic cooling. This has been, some people have talked about this maybe being contributory to the extinction of the dinosaurs. A lot's happening at the same time. There's a eustatic sea level drop, so sea levels around the world are falling. This is why the Western Interior Seaway is receding.
Okay.
There's global cooling. We've got evidence of fairly cold climates. I mean, not modern polar, but fairly cold climates at high latitudes. I would believe that in the winter, sea ice could form, depending on the temperature of the year.
I'm looking at a paper right now that's discussing pollinological evidence. It says that with this pollen data that they gathered, as well as oxygen isotope values, it supports the presence of ephemeral ice sheets on Antarctica during the late Cretaceous, and so that probably that would induce sea ice. Something interesting that it also says is that they see like a change in the abundance of the pollinological and the dinoflagellate data near the KPG boundary that they reckon is probably associated with climate warming due to the Deccan Trap volcanoes. So if this is contemporaneous with the Deccan, maybe it would be a little bit warmer, but also there's nothing saying that it is exactly contemporaneous with that. So
right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a neat thing. We don't usually think about dinosaurs in snowy environments, and we've seen that a lot in Prehistoric Planet. I think it's a very reasonable thing. Like, we know there would have been snow on top of mountains generally, and dinosaurs probably lived up there. But at this time, the Earth's climate was getting cooler. The Earth's climate was really warm for a lot of the Mesozoic, and when we say it's cooling, we're not saying it's getting to like Ice Age levels. We're saying that it's not like the Amazon everywhere.
Right.
Like, it was hot. And I mean, scientists are rightfully worrying about carbon dioxide in the atmosphere going above 400 parts per million and climbing in the modern day. Carbon dioxide in the Middle Cretaceous was estimated at 4,000 parts per million. So literally 10 times higher than what we currently have. And the Earth was hot.
Yes, as a good reminder for anyone who might hear that and be like, oh, this is just one of Earth's natural cycles. To that, I would suggest don't reproduce, you absolute dullard. But also, when there were 4,000, when CO2 was 4,000 parts per million in the atmosphere, there was a sea across the middle of North America.
Right. All of that middle America you live in, underwater. And there were huge angry lizards in it.
Right. I would say, if you remember, when I talk about mosasaurs, I talk a lot about Kansas. And it's not just the entire state of Kansas is underwater. It's not like there's a river or a pocket. The entire state of Kansas is underwater.
All of what would be Louisiana and Florida were underwater, as they should be.
Yep.
All of New York City underwater.
So a good amount of New York, New Jersey.
Just like any coast.
The Gulf of Mexico was connected to the Arctic Ocean. Like, the entire country is cut in half.
Yeah.
By a seaway that would have taken several hours to drive across.
Yeah. It was a hot climate with a really high sea level. That seems to have been good for dinosaurs. That would not be good for us.
You can just sell your oceanfront property.
Yeah.
Who'd you sell it to?
Aquaman.
All right. Anyway, I think, do we have anything else to say about that segment?
I just want to say that it looks really nice. Like, watching it again, like, something about the lighting works really well. Like, it looks like a polar environment. And then I had forgotten that it's a filter feeding plesiosaur. It's like it's not eating the sand. It's like digging around in the sand, and there's like clouds of sediment and stuff, and it looks really nice.
If I remember correctly, I think Cryptocleidos does this in Walking with Dinosaurs too, right? Not necessarily filter feeding, but I think it's rooting around in, like,
it does, yeah.
Muck.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Now, it does look beautiful, but Jon Favreau's at Disney, and you know who else is technically associated with Disney products?
James Cameron.
if we have a season 3, could James Cameron just do the ocean episodes?
There was an interview I saw online about Jon Favreau being influenced by Avatar 2 in some of the ways he did water stuff in this season.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. Hey, if you've ever and you know that we love our audience, but if any of our audience members have ever been like, Avatar never had a cultural impact, shut up. Look, it influenced this thing you really like. It's good. Avatar, every member of the skeleton crew really likes Avatar.
Except Amelia.
That's all.
I like it. I wouldn't say I really like it, and I certainly don't build a personality about it and interject it into an episode that I'm creating about something else entirely.
But it was related.
Sure.
So, wrong.
Anyway, guys, that's it for the skeleton crew tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We see you. And remember that we also want to see you on June 17th when we do a charity live stream to benefit the Trevor Project. We really want to have all of you there. Please join us, even if for only a little bit of the live stream. Remember that if you enjoyed this video, we would really appreciate it if you liked the video, left a comment to tell us what you liked, and subscribe to the channel. We tremendously appreciate all the support you've shown us in, our short lifespan so far. We're growing a lot faster than we ever dreamed we would, and we appreciate every single member of our audience, even the ones who don't like Avatar, though we do hope you can be saved.
It's all right. There's room. There's room for everyone on Pandora. You will be saved.
All right. See you next time, everybody.
See you next time, everyone.